How did you hook up with Tim from Clutch?
We have known those guys for years now. We're both from the same area in Maryland, and our drummer and their drummer, John Paul Gaster, shared a drum teacher, and we linked up like that. Mm-hmm. But the root of it all began in 1985. My dad owned a seafood market in Gaithersburg, Maryland, and Neil Fallon, the singer of Clutch, mm-hmm. that was his first job.
Oh my God!
He was working for my dad, and I was in the shop too as a young kid. Uh-huh. So I had kind of always known Clutch and been a fan of the band for a long time. And then we kind of reconnected through the drum teacher. Mm-hmm. And it was, we just happened to, years, 10, 15 years later, I happened to also be in the music business. So it wasn't, it was just kind of a coincidence.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool to hear stories like that of things coming together. Where do you guys see yourselves? You're doing the Warped Tour this summer. The album actually just came out in February. What are your plans for the next few rounds of being out there?
We're gonna when we get off this tour, we're gonna go home and cut another record. I don't know whether it's gonna be an EP or a full length, but we have enough songs that we're gonna get in there and turn something out. Mm-hmm. We're gonna go do Bonnaroo Music Festival, which we just got picked up for that last week. Okay. Then we're gonna go do the Warped Tour. Then we're gonna come off the Warped Tour, and we're gonna think about releasing another record. And there's a lot of touring options that have been presented to us in the last few weeks. Mm-hmm. So I think we're gonna go out and hit the road again all the way through the new year, maybe even into the next year.
Sounds like you guys are very, very busy.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to try to spread out a little bit, too. I think this year we're going to try to get to Europe and Japan, at least in 2012. It'll be the first quarter, so.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. You guys play with a lot of different bands. I mean, I see Baroness on there, Lee Scratch Perry, Steel Pulse. How do audiences take you guys? I don't think every show you can go in and expect to win the entire crowd over. Sometimes it happens and it's awesome. But at this point, we're very focused on just trying to please, the few people in there that are kind of grooving on it. But up until now, honestly, we really haven't had a poor reception. We've kind of had good receptions all across the board there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's great. I got a last couple of questions here that are on my head, and I want to ask you before I let you go. But my first question is, you guys are still, you're out there doing it on your own. Your label isn't a big label. You're not getting a big press from the media and stuff like that. How do you put food on the table in a world where people just want to download everything for free?
I guess touring and touring and merch sales and t-shirts and vinyls and things that are specialized like that. I think it's kind of impossible to make your living off of record sales now. I don't think it exists because of downloading. Mm-hmm. But I think if you're consistently putting on good shows and putting out good records, I think enough people support it that you can put food on the table. You know what I mean?
Right.
You hear a lot of bands gripe about, the industry's gone to shit and there's no tour support and there's record sales are down, but, if you look at bands like Clutch and bands like Steel Pulse and the Black Crowes and mm-hmm. Even a lot of jam bands like Government Mule and you look at these bands and they're doing great because they've always toured,
right?
And they've always put out good records and they've always put on great live shows. So maybe it's not so much the industry that's faltering. Maybe it's the lack of quality amongst a lot of bands out there. That's the only conclusion that I can come to. Obviously, it's harder, but it's harder all across the board.
Right.
It's not just the music industry; it's everything.
Right. Everybody's struggling with gas at $4 a gallon to put
For sure.
And that's got to.
So you see places TGI Fridays or Starbucks or any of the chains, they're shutting down, and there's a lot of places that are like really struggling to get through. And any small town that you go to in the country, there's always that one there's that one pizza place or the diner that does really well and it's been there for 60 years because they're there they've never changed to accommodate the times. They've only done what they know they can do well.
Right.
And I think the same thing applies to bands. You know, we've never had tour support. We've never been on a label. We've never, you know, up until recently, we were never on a label, and we never had MTV, and we never had the radio. We never had any of this stuff.
Right.
And somehow our tours are getting bigger, and the shows are getting better, and we're playing festivals, and we're growing, because I don't think we've really tried to change anything to accommodate what people call like the current climate of things.
Right.
We just do what we do and put our noses to the grindstone and work hard. And I think that if other bands really took it like super seriously, they could find the same results, I think.
Right. You know, that's a really interesting point to come from there, because I've never heard I've always heard everybody blaming everybody else, but I've never ever heard anybody say maybe it's because you're putting out shit music.
I mean, that's the truth, though. No one wants to say it.
Yeah.
No one wants to say that you know, obviously, I have a huge amount of respect for any band that gets in a van and gets out there and tours, 100%. But you got to think that, like, with MySpace and MacBooks with GarageBand on it, anyone can put together a record.
Right.
Anyone can put their music out there. But that just because everyone can do it doesn't mean it's good.
Right.
So, you know, I think instead of a lot of bands, maybe of our generation, looking back and thinking that like Nirvana and Pearl Jam are classic rock, they need to go back further and see how it's been done, you know, since the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, I actually have I have a quick anecdote about that. I was listening to Classic Rock Station here a couple of years ago, and the Cult's Firewoman came on. I'm not old enough to have a song on classic rock radio yet.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Nirvana and Pearl Jam are not classic rock.
And that's the thing, is that, you know, I think it kind of goes full circle back to the Sublime thing. Like, Sublime's a great band, but the bands that Sublime was borrowing from, those are the true gems.
Yeah.
The bands that Nirvana was borrowing from, those bands, you know, there's a reason they were borrowing from those bands.
Right.
You know, and that's what, I think that's what you have to do. Any band that is worth anything and that you love, you really should go back. It's like, if you listen, like, you know, if you're listening to Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, and Deep Purple, you got to go back and listen to who those guys were listening to.
Right.
Because that's where they're getting that inspiration from.
Right.
You could rip off Led Zeppelin all day long, but, you know, you really should get familiar with the Robert Johnson catalog.
Right.
And the Howlin' Wolf catalog, and that's really going to take you to a different place. It's going to take you to the root of it all and what inspired them to make rad music. Absolutely.
I couldn't agree with that more.
And that's just my opinion. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's what works for this band for sure.
Yeah, no, you know what? Whether it's right or wrong or not, I agree with it 100%. You have to understand, I had a professor in college who said you first have to learn the rules to break the rules. So I totally get that. And I think you guys have really taken your influences. I hear them, but I hear your own unique sound. And I think that is why I've latched onto you so quickly and so, I mean, I was just on it. I got one last question, and this is my question that I ask every artist that I talk to. What do you want people who are listening to this interview, who don't know anything about you, what do you want them to know about perhaps you, your music, Lionize, touring, politics? What do you want to say to people that they walk away with and know and they know about what you have to say?
Oh man, that's a lot of pressure. Just keep listening to music, I think, is the only thing I can really say. It's just, whether it's us or another band or whatever, just if you have the inclination to go to a concert but you think the ticket price is a little too high, figure out how you can get there. And when you go to the concert and you have a good time, buy a T-shirt. Mm-hmm. And just, support the music, because that's, it kind of works in a give and take scenario. So,
right.
The more people can get out of it, the more we can give, and vice versa. So.
Right. Well, thank you for your time. Good luck on your journeys to your next stop.
Thanks again so much.